Welcome back to episode 4 of Runeterrors, or rather something I'm now calling Runeterra VOD Reviews, at least for the time being. Some of you may remember back when I started this video series that I wanted the community to come up with a name for the series, and I had you guys vote on it. Well, it's been a while since the last episode, and since this has unfortunately been one of my less popular series of videos, I figured it was best to try a slightly different approach and change the name from Runeterrors to something simpler and more obvious, for lack of a better word. I've noticed as this series has gone on that it's been pretty tough to show people what this series is about with the name I had before, no matter how clever I thought it was. I'm not even sure if VOD Reviews will be the name that I stick with, but I'm going with it for now. Anyway, for those new, you're probably wondering what this video even is, so let's talk about that. This is a series where we analyze misplays made during Legends of Runeterra games, and we talk about what could have been done differently in those situations. I did a deck guide on a Lucian Kalista Harrowing deck a few weeks back, and I've been wanting to do this video going over some misplays with the deck for quite some time now, kind of as a companion video to go with that deck guide. Speaking of which, I'll leave a link in the top right corner of this video for anyone that wants to check out that guide. Anyway, this episode is filled with good examples of what pitfalls to avoid when playing this deck, as well as some other mistakes that a few players might not have thought about. By extension, if you're an avid player of Endure decks, you might pick something up from this video as well, since this deck is similar to Endure. So let's jump into it. The first game we'll be taking a look at is against a Braum Anivia control deck, and there's actually a misplay right off the bat. I end up throwing Cytheria back into my deck to get another card in my opening hand. This is a good lesson in recognizing what the most important cards are in your deck to win a given matchup. Normally, with this deck, you would just mulligan for a good early curve, units you can play within the first 3 turns of the game, and if you have some of those, maybe a 4-mana unit you can play on turn 4 if you have it. The same holds true for most decks in this game that have proactive plays early on. However, by not keeping Cytheria in my opening hand, I didn't have a way to instantly win the game if I had a decent board. Cytheria is crucial to win this matchup because the Braum Anivia deck is bad at blocking fearsome units. Most of their units naturally have 2 power or less, even both of their champions. One other quick thing that I did this game that I also want to point out is that at the end of my opponent's attack on this round, I played a 1/1 hapless aristocrat, which didn't end up mattering in this game, but was a mistake in general. When playing this deck, you need to be aware of when top decking harrowing is going to be your win condition. Here, I would have potentially been able to harrowing for 5 units. It wouldn't have been enough, but there are a lot of other games where having an extra harrowing unit will be better than whatever low cost unit you have in hand that you could play. The next game we'll be taking a look at is against the standard Frostbite mid-range deck. I'm on odds and we're about to go into round 5. Let's take a look at what I do here. So I chose to spend all my mana on playing Thresh because I wanted to set up a situation where my other units would eventually die and Thresh would level up. Thresh also directly threatens Ashe if my opponent doesn't have the correct response. Of course, my opponent did have a great response in Reckoning, wiping my entire board. Instead of playing Thresh, what I could have done is, first off, recognize that the opponent had 6 mana for Reckoning. Then go for Chronicler of Ruin to try and bait it out, since I had Avarosan Sentry as a target for Chronicler. That way, if they still went for Reckoning, I could set up a Harrowing 2 rounds later by playing Thresh to save 2 spell mana, instead of having to play Cytheria and miss out on Harrowing due to being 1 mana short. There was one final misplay this game as well, and that was carelessly going for single combat when my opponent had 3 mana up for Elixir of Iron, when they hadn't played any Elixir of Irons or any other combat tricks prior to this. I needed to leave Lucian back as a blocker to go for the second harrowing instead and try to win that way. Admittedly, I was pretty tilted by this point after playing for a pretty long time with this deck back when this game happened, but it's still important to not get careless and do the best you can to maintain some type of mental focus. Tilting only makes you play worse than you normally would. The final game we'll be taking a look at is against a bit more of an old school Bannerman list with Vi in it. My opponent had some very good draws and pulled pretty far ahead of me on board. I've barely managed to stabilize at this point. Let's see what I do next.
For king and country.
My gun does the talking.
Nothing stands in our way.
Missed your chance to run.
Follow my lead. You would test my steel?
Hold fast.
Stand strong.
We're gonna need more coffins. You'll pay for this!
For enough.
So this one was just a bit of a blunder on my end. I misplayed by not attacking with Lucian because I forgot that if he levels up, his rally ability won't trigger on the same turn because something died already. I missed lethal here because my opponent didn't have enough units to block all of mine, no matter which ones they chose to block. Not without some type of removal like single combat or concerted strike anyway. As it turns out, the cards in my opponent's hand were back-to-back and 2 Grizzled Rangers at the time, which I found out later based on which cards came out of their hand over the next few turns. And that's it for this VOD review. If you like this type of content and want to see more, feel free to give it a like below. If you want to guarantee that you don't miss out on future VOD reviews as well as any other Legends of Runeterra content, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell below to stay informed. If you're into watching Legends of Runeterra live, feel free to check out my Twitch stream as well. Link is in the video description below, along with links to my Twitter and our community Discord that you can join for free. Thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.